我是 Lara 老师，你叫什么名字? You didn't understand what I'm saying about, right? For our pupils, understanding English vocabulary may as hard as this, simply because English is not our first language. In 2018, a program for International Student Assessment, PISA, by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, revealed that the Philippines was the lowest in reading comprehension among 79 countries. Results showed that the Philippines only had an average reading score of 340, 100 points short of the OECD average of 487. Isn't it a great challenge to us teachers? I bet we all agree with a big yes. In this webinar, I am tasked to provide you a wider background about a strategy that we can use in our class. I am Lara May S. Gonzalez, Teacher 1 of Tagoloan Central School, Tagoloan District, Division of Misamis Oriental, Region 10. And I welcome you to our topic, Teaching English Vocabulary in an Online Class through Total Physical Response. Now let's go back to the Chinese greeting with a twist, and let's see what happens. 你好，我是 Lara 老师，你叫什么名字? With the use of gestures, we somehow have an idea what I am saying, even if it is not our first language. That is total physical response is all about. At the end of this video, you are expected to know what is TPR, why we use it, when can we use it, and how can we use it. Please fill in the KWL chart below. What do you know about TPR? Please write your answer in the chat box. What do you want to know about this topic? Please input your response in the chat box. What did you learn? You can answer this question at the end of my presentation. Thank you. What is TPR? TPR stands for Total Physical Response, and it is a way of teaching language that uses both verbal communication and physical body movement. The technique was developed by Dr. James Asher, a professor from San Jose State University in the 1970s. He observed that young learners could comprehend language before speech and often responded with physical movement. TPR was originated by Dr. James J. Asher, who is a professor emeritus of psychology at San Jose State University. Dr. Asher observed that the dropout rate of second language students in a traditional program is often as high as 95%. He wondered why so many people have a hard time learning a second language, although most or almost no one has no trouble while learning their first language. Dr. Escher came up with a couple of explanations why many teachers use methods that were not used while learning the first language. There is often found stress in the second language learning environment. Therefore, Asher decided to create a stress-free approach to learning a second language that used many methods found in the first language learning experience. According to him, babies don't learn by memorizing lists. Why should children and adults? Babies don't learn their first language by memorizing. nor we show them pictures to learn a word or translating words to them. Babies learn their first language by watching, imitating, and listening. So, based from this principle, we will use the same method in teaching English vocabulary to our learners. The success of TPR is built upon these foundational principles of second language acquisition theory. Languages are best learned when the learner receives lots of comprehensible or understandable input. In other words, for true beginners, listening a radio broadcast in the language is not nearly as effective as listening to simple here and now talk directed at the learner. Beginning language learners can benefit greatly from a silent period in which they learn to understand and respond to parts of the language without attempting to speak it. This is also referred to as delayed production, and of course, reflects that path that children follow when learning their first language. TPR is based on the theory that the memory is enhanced through association with physical movement. It is also closely associated with theories of mother tongue language acquisition in very young children, where they respond physically to parental commands such as pick it up and put it down. TPR as an approach to teaching a second language is based first and foremost on listening, and this is linked to physical actions which are designed to reinforce comprehension of particular basic terms. TPR is also based on the premise that the human brain has a biological program for acquiring any natural language on earth, including the sign language of the deaf. The process is visible when we observe how infants internalize their first language. The secret is a unique conversation between the parent and infant. For example, the first conversation is a parent saying, "Look at daddy! Look at daddy!" The infant's face turns into the direction of the voice, and daddy exclaims, "She's looking at me! She's looking at me!" Dr. Asher calls this a language body conversation because the parent speaks and the infant answers with a physical response such as looking, smiling, laughing, turning, walking, reaching, grasping, holding, sitting, running, and so forth. Notice that these conversations continue for many, many months before the child utters anything more intelligible than mommy or daddy. Although the infant is not yet speaking, the child is imprinting a linguistic map of how the language works. Silently, the child is internalizing the patterns and sounds of the target language. When the child has decoded enough of the target language, speaking appears spontaneously. The infant's speech will not be perfect, but gradually the child's utterances will approximate more and more that of a native speaker. So, why is TPR important for online teaching? Today, online English teachers can mimic the natural way children pick up languages in their online classrooms by eliciting similar responses. When a teacher uses body movements to show the meaning of the word, students with little English begin to associate a word with a physical action. The coupling of actions and speech naturally makes learning easier. A few TPR examples include facial expression, body language, gestures, or physical props. Total physical response is a strategy that tends to work best for action-related words and is also an effective way to keep your students energized and focused in class. Body movement and speech are innately linked in our brains. So, by using TPR in online teaching, you are delivering language in a way that young minds can best understand, especially in a virtual classroom where teachers are confined to a small square. Using motion with new words can help visual, audio, and kinetic learners, even without the resources and space of a traditional classroom. TPR can also keep students attentive and focused, which is especially important when teaching English online. Kids naturally have a hard time sitting still for long periods of time, especially in a lesson that's screen to screen. By using lessons that incorporate dancing, acting, or gesturing, students are more likely to be entertained and stay happily on task while learning. When and how to use TPR as an online teacher. Total physical response is a teaching strategy that is best used when teaching new vocabulary or phrases that are connected to actions. It is a method that can easily be combined with other teaching strategies as well as with effective classroom management. Here are a few more TPR lesson ideas and tips to help you in your virtual classroom. First, TPR is key for classroom commands. Also known as instructional TPR, these gestures demonstrate what you want the student to do during a lesson. Teachers can use this type of gesture in every online teaching lesson. Some classroom TPR examples include cupping your ear to show that you are listening and want them to speak, pointing to your mouth when talking to show that they should listen carefully, using your finger to draw in circle, or mimicking or clicking motion to explain what they should do on the screen, pointing at the student if they don't understand that it's their turn to do something. Can you hear me? Yes? No. Good. Can you see me? Yes. Good. Please read. Say mm, mm. Say d, d. Great. Did you go to school today? Did you go to school today? Do you have fun? Those are just some of the examples of using TPR as an instructional TPR in a classroom command. TPR can help teach new vocabulary and lesson material at the beginning of a new lesson. TPR is an essential tool to help students learn the new meaning of new words, especially when it's the first time a student has heard them. With TPR, teachers can demonstrate the word through speech and movement. It's also critical to have the student repeat it many times because repetition is key to learning and understanding. It is also important when teaching phonics and pronunciation. One of the most challenging aspects of learning a new language is the pronunciation of unknown sounds. You can articulate how to produce these sounds with TPR or exaggerated movements to show your students how it's done. A great tip is to get close to the camera, point to your mouth, and slowly emphasize mouth movements and shapes. Have the student repeat and exaggerate the motion for muscle memory. Be consistent with your TPR. When using TPR, it's also essential to stay consistent with your gestures. You don't want to drastically change movements from what you first presented to your students. With TPR, students learn to associate certain gestures with specific words, and any drastic changes can be confusing. This is especially important when it comes to your instructional or classroom TPR. Always use the same motion when you ask the student to perform a specific task. Consistency ensures students understand what's expected of them and can complete the task confidently. TPR is beneficial for both young and older learners. TPR is often cited as working best for young students. However, it shouldn't be completely neglected as a tool for adults. TPR can help demonstrate the meaning of a new word, especially for students with a very minimal base regardless of age. For example, an adult may not love the idea of playing Simon Says, but using motions while presenting new words can help teach the definition. Teachers should be sure to tailor the amount and type of TPR to the specific learning style, needs, and age of students. Remember to smile and be energetic. Staying upbeat and happy while using TPR and teaching English online is very important for our student engagement. The best thing an online teacher can do is practice TPR with a big smile. In a traditional classroom, students have more visual cues like full body gestures, interaction with other students, and facial expressions. However, in an online classroom, they can only see your face. A big smile can help students stay happy and confident during their lessons and feel encouraged to continue learning. While TPR should be energetic, it's not helpful to gesture too wildly or too quickly. It may distract or confuse the student. There's a fine line between energetic and too frantic. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to use TPR in teaching vocabulary to our students. First, prepare. Select the vocabulary that you are going to teach. Gather any equipment, props, or pictures you will need to illustrate the meaning of the new word. For example, confused, confused. That's number one. Second step, say the new vocabulary word for the students. As you do this, use gestures, facial expressions, props, or body movements to illustrate the meaning of the word. Hmm, confused. Hmm, confused. 3. Student modeling. Have student volunteers mimic the same gestures, facial expressions, Use of props or body movement modeled as you say the word. Okay, kids, follow me. Confused. Confused. Student participation. Have all students mimic the same gestures, facial expressions, use of props, or body movement, modeled by the teacher and student volunteers. Ask them to say the word as they are making the movement. Vary this activity by then doing the action and while students say the word. Okay, everybody say gesture. Everybody say confused. Confused. Hmm. 5. Writing. Write the word or phrase where all students can see so that students can make the connection between oral and written words. Confused. Repetition and practice. Teach the next word or phrase using the same method. Review and practice words with students multiple times to ensure learning. Recycle words regularly to make sure that students do not forget old words. So that is total physical response. I hope that you learned something from this video, and feel free to comment, to give me suggestions, or even ask me questions. So you can reach me through my Facebook and email. Thank you.